As I mentioned before, UNWTO was really honored to work with, start working with Instagram really at the height of the pandemic. We actually had two, and this is very interesting, new partnerships around media and communication. Again, when the world stood still, one was with Instagram, and the other one was with Euronews. Euronews, and as you know, it's a multi-language digital broadcast channel in Europe, and they opened the travel vertical in October 2020. Bad times, but still looking ahead for the relevance. So, what about tourism? How come that tourism has become something relevant for Instagram? Not only, of course, through the content stream generated by, of course, followers, users, and so on, but really for you to engage from the top of the sector.
Actually, before we hop in, I'll give a little bit about myself, and Sharon will give a little bit about herself as well. I've been with Meta for a year now, and I came actually from the pharmaceutical industry, a totally different world. One of the things I love when I was in that world, both on the government side and the patient side, was I work with people who get to tell their stories, and that's why I joined Instagram, was to give a chance for people to tell their stories. It was one of the things I was looking forward to. And so I also come from a small town, so we'll get into that some more as well, about the importance of the tourism in this program. But just want to give you a little bit about me, and I'll give Sharon a little bit about herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Yang. I've been with Meta for 7 years now. I'm from San Diego, and I currently live in Washington, D.C. And what I do at Meta is I actually manage partnerships. So I help manage our partnerships with the UN system. I actually manage a lot of our diplomatic engagement as well. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy that we have the privilege of coming to Punta Cana to represent Meta and Instagram. But back to your question, I'll let Ernest take that.
Back to your question. Tourism has been a very important thing on Instagram. We've seen it growing. It is content people engage with. We have 2 billion people who engage on our platform, and tourism is something, and travel, that is right up there with our other important areas and that people engage with. It's up there with youth content, it's up there with parental content, DIY stuff. Tourism is very important, and on top of that, it's something that teenagers are really engaging with as well. A lot of our creators have a significant amount of teen engagement with their content, and so it's just somewhere we see growth, and we see the importance of our platform there and tourism to our platform.
Of course, I mean, you have really the trends, hot trends, immediate, literally at your fingertips. How has this been changing? What have you seen over the past 2 or 3 years? We all have the benchmark of the pre-pandemic times where we are. Of course, we see this from a numbers perspective, just to see how things are moving. But then again, we saw the huge impact that this crisis, this pandemic, as well as many others, have had on consumer behavior in general, not only on tourism. Something new, something different? Is there a different world now than we see with what we saw before? And how then would you combine this, and what would you recommend, especially to those in the tourism sector, on how to really dive into that?
I mean, we've seen several trends. One of the things we've seen is that the type of content that our creators are providing is shifting, and I wouldn't say shifting. There's new content and new additional types of content that are coming to our platform. The content is still there that is, the pretty and the beautiful, but there's a new set of sustainable tourism, more information being provided about the locations by our creators, a shift towards like a whole new model of how people are interacting on the platform.
Precisely. So if you look at Instagram pre-pandemic, it was a lot of travelers potentially sharing very beautiful, aspirational photos of places they want to go to, or like it's like, I absolutely am inspired, I want to go there. But now if you look at Instagram, and particularly short form content, Reels specifically, you see that the content that people are sharing is much more informative. When I go to a place, how do I communicate? When I go somewhere, how do I ask for the bill? How do I exchange currency? I was recently in Japan with my mother. I brought her for the first time. And so, as you can imagine, I was doing some research on Instagram. And as soon as then my Explore page on Instagram became filled with very irrelevant content for me. And it was everything from, if you want to ask for the check in Japan, it's not this, it's this. So it became very informative content versus, look at this beautiful place, go there. It's more like, go to this beautiful place, immerse yourself there. Immerse yourself in the culture. Learn a little bit of the phrases you'll need and the language that you'll need. So I think that's the biggest shift, is not only is it from still images, but it's also to short form videos. And not just beautiful videos, but informative videos. So if you look on our platform now, a lot of the creators will start with the camera pointed to themselves, captions, so it's accessible for people who need to read. And again, it's more than just a beautiful photo, it's full immersion and information, education before you need to visit someone.
And continuing with that, it's also information that is very relevant to specific populations. And on the accessibility front, we have a lot of our creators who are, and some of the creators you'll hear about later on today, who presented information about how to travel if you are differently abled. How to get to the beach and beaches that are available for people who are in wheelchairs. So that authentic content that's really tailored to a group that needs this information is now available on our platform from people who are living that experience and who can present really, here's how I was able to go to these locations and experience it for myself.
Just quickly, maybe not everybody's familiar with the term. What is a creator? What is an Instagram creator? It's just anybody using the platform, shooting something up?
I would say we are all content creators. And that, I would say, is the little c. We are all content creators. The big C, creators, as we define it, are people who actually do make a living using our monetization tools on our platform. So they actually can make, they are content creators as a profession.
Yeah. And we see our creators as very important to our platform. They're the soul of our platform in many ways. And we want to help them be able to monetize, be able to make a living on our platform. But beyond the living that they make, it's also the expanded access that they give to other small businesses, the people that they highlight in their videos, that people can then interact with that they might not have known about before. Several of our creators really did highlight, as shown in the video, there are 58 small businesses that were highlighted in this program, but that's something that happens every day. People bring the opportunity to engage with a business, with a small business that they might not have seen before. And as I mentioned, my parents actually had a small business, and I could see even back then, this was well before Instagram was available to them, the impact that a little bit more recognition could have on a small business. And so when the creators on our platform highlight these businesses, they are bringing something to the local economy. They're bringing something different to the tourist economy as well.
Spoiler alert, we have two creators here who will be part of the last segment to see really how do we match the conceptual part, the theory, the people first, the branding, travel, journalism, coverage, etc., with what's really on the ground. Going back to people first, which I think is really the connecting thread. And those of you, of course, who witnessed yesterday the rebranding effort that UNWTO is undergoing, it is actually people-centric. It puts people front and center. I asked in the previous panel what their message would be precisely to DMOs, precisely to those promoting tourism, and also raising awareness, right? Which is then my role is as a specialized UN agency. Do you share the approach that was here transmitted by both a seasoned
Yes.
travel journalist and a world leader in branding?
The short answer is yes, but I would actually like to explain a little bit why we decided to partner with the UNWTO, how the program started, and then transition to why creators, why individuals, and why the answer is yes. So, like Marcelo referred to, we initially partnered with the UNWTO during the pandemic era, where there was a lot of economic uncertainty, particularly in the tourism field. And you ask, why was this a priority for us? It's because actually UNWTO and Meta have very similar shared goals. We care about responsible tourism, we care about sustainable tourism, we care about technology, we care about innovation. So for us, during this economic uncertain time and tourism, we thought the UNWTO was a perfect partner because they have a very unique way of bringing people together, convening the most important stakeholders in this area, like this room, like this executive council. And so our first partnership was actually creating an a tourism recovery playbook for Instagram. It was geared towards tourism boards, towards small businesses to actually utilize our tools and showcase how it embraced social media as a way of communicating when tourism was not happening. How does a small business get their message out when tourists are not coming? Use social media, use Instagram. So this playbook, which you can still find on UNWTO with an opening from the Secretary General, was that guidebook to help people. How do we use our tools in an era when tourism is non-existent to highlight some of those local destinations that potentially, when tourism does open it up again, I can re-engage with. So what you saw there was a program called, the next phase of our partnership was See the World Through My Eyes. This was actually a program putting our playbook to the test. We took our own playbook, our own advice, and said, look, we can actually do it ourselves. We can create content ourselves as well. So this is where we partnered with UNWTO. We worked with 20 creators. As mentioned, 2 of them are sitting in a session later today, so you can ask them some questions and talk to them. 20 creators, and really worked with them to highlight hometown, hidden gems, local tourist destinations where they were. And again, this is a way that people could show content, pull back the curtain, hidden gems, and actually, wear these wearables and facilitate that type of content creation using wearables, which is also a cross-section of innovation and technology. So that's what this See the World Through My Eyes program really was. It was a way in highlighting how the individual is going to be very critical and the personal experience is going to be very critical to tourism and future narratives on tourism. And when you look to individuals, it's a diverse set of voices. These creators have very diverse and different audiences. And so when you want to increase your reach, or if you want to think about how do I promote, how do I market, look to diverse voices first and foremost. So the personal experience and diverse voice.
And if I could add on there, as you're looking at those voices, don't necessarily get caught up in the number of followers the creator has. I mean, it's not just the size of their following, it's how engaged their followers are. And a lot of the creators may have smaller, but very engaged audiences. And that also has a huge impact when those audiences are really paying attention to what those creators are putting out there in the world.
Now, we're having here a host, the Minister of Tourism of the Dominican Republic. We have the Minister of Tourism of Guatemala. I believe we have also delegates from Morocco. And apologies if I'm missing out anybody I don't identify at first sight. So what's your very specific, very concrete message contrasting how you normally see tourism boards or tourism ministries portraying themselves, right, in contrast with what we're talking here? People first, engaging creators, less is more, maybe? Size is always relative. What's the message to, what should they pay attention to, given your vast experience? And again, I mean, you're in the control room.
I mean, one of the things is to find those creators who are really excited about their location. I mean, there are people in in small towns who really want to highlight where they're from. They want to bring the world to them. They want to share their experiences with the world. They want to share their stories. And I think that's something that that boards can really can tie into and use.
Yeah, so I think there's a few very actionable ways in which you can utilize your own team, your own community, to be the best ambassadors for you. So you don't have to look very far. If I were to give some advice to tourism boards and ministries in terms of promotion, look in your backyard. Look at the community leaders and let them showcase and partner with them in sharing content, developing story, developing a narrative, first and foremost. And if what draws people into social, what draws people into your story are really the perspective and the authentic voices of those creators. So when you engage with a creator, when you partner with a creator to really amplify some of the sites that you want to showcase, let them be authentic. Let them be the authentic selves. It may not be the persona that the tourism board or in a policy setting we would typically utilize, but let them be authentic because their audience is a diverse audience and you want to showcase that. They're pulling into what Ernest mentioned. They're pulling in a very different audience than the typical audience. So really, really lean into that.
As you know, I'm a development economist by training, so I try to identify patterns. So this is a template. It works for tourism, but it works also for other segments because we're mentioning tourism here, but not all the time. It's just a way how you approach, right, a certain topic, and using at least your platform then to amplify the message. I'm saying this because I see there in the back. For instance, we have a delegate from CAF, the Development Bank for Latin America, who are involved in tourism from another perspective, for instance, right? We are a cross-cutting sector. We as a UN agency, we don't sell tourism per se. We try to convey the message of why tourism is so relevant for development. And then comes the whole rest. Now, you were talking, of course, to addressing, for instance, Minister Collado and tourism promotion agencies. What's your message then to international public entities? Somebody like the UN, the huge family that we represent, or a development bank like CAF?
The advice is actually not too different than what we just mentioned advising. The trend that we're seeing on Instagram or even on Facebook is that it's a turn towards the personal and the turn towards the authentic. So it is that personal, that authentic voice. And I think I mentioned to my colleagues last night, is like places, destinations need a voice. They have a persona now, and you need to personify them. And that's very different than I think the way that tourism was marketed before, where you would show a photo and that would be enough to drive somebody. It's not enough anymore. You actually want to show the story, the journey of this to this destination before you actually capture this image. So I think the authentic, the behind the scenes, those voices, the beautiful, the not so beautiful, show it all, because I think that authenticity makes it very much more approachable for someone to find and discover.
Yeah, and I'd also want to, make sure it's clear. People aren't just going to Instagram to discover things. It's becoming a place of action as well. People are directly engaging with the small business. Even if they don't get a chance to travel to a location, they may see something and be very excited by it and go, oh my gosh, I did not know that was out there. I didn't know I could order a hat. Or I think Marion, one of our creators, highlighted a small hat shop. That was available. I can order something from there and have that brought to me. Even if I can't get to this location, if I can't travel, I can still experience this thing, and it's brought to me by social media. It's brought to me by Instagram.
Okay, we must bring this segment to an end, but before we finish this, who likes to play bad cop and who likes to play good cop?
I like good cop.
You like good cop, you're bad cop.
Where is this
Your
going?
the message to our audience and to those following us on streaming, to the minister, to your fellow creators. What are the don'ts? What don't they have to do when trying to use technology, communication technology, to engage in a meaningful way, to position the destinations, and to really make a difference? Be the bad cop.
Bad cop.
Yeah, be mean.
We mentioned this earlier, don't just focus on the number of creators. Don't just, number of followers. That's not exactly where you have to focus. Be prepared to look a little bit deeper. So I think that's a don't. And don't think that it always has to be perfect. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Authentic we're in a beautiful location, and it's hard to not have beauty here when you're showing the pictures, but everything's not going to be perfect every time, and that's okay. So don't focus on it being perfect.
The do's. And of course, the do's are positive. We don't want to criticize anybody. But of course, we have our host, the Dominican Republic. So what's the Dominican Republic? What are they really excelling? What's the lesson really to be shared with others?
Of course. Do maximize and use the tools that Instagram has to offer. And I know that there's some communications professionals in here, so please, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but there are some tools on Instagram. Instagram guides. Use Instagram guides. 2, use Instagram Reels for discoverability. That is where you're going to get a lot of your views. That's where you're going to show up in the Explore page. So I think short form video is very important. Use creators. Definitely partner with community leaders, voices, whether they have a big audience or a small audience. Have someone else also bring a different perspective, an ambassador, to your social media and your communications as well. And do find hidden gems. I don't know about again, I'm just going to refer to the most recent travel, but what I was searching for, what I wanted to discover was I wanted to be in Japan, and I wanted to be one of the first adopters to discover something completely new that nobody had really been to before, that's not in a guidebook. So feature the small hidden gems, because to your point, this is a great platform to amplify small and local businesses as well, which is why we also were very proud of See the World Through My Eyes, because it wasn't just beautiful content creation, it was also engaging with the local community, and in a time of, again, economic uncertainty, amplifying, drawing people to small businesses. So do that, because I think there's a lot of powerful voices, undiscovered voices, and really authentic voices that you can use. So use the tools on our platform, and I'll leave you with, whenever you do a video, as I've mentioned before, please use captions. I think that's probably one of the most important things. Use captions for any of our tools. So I will leave you with that.
So thank you very much. From the really broad concept really to very specific recommendations, and we'll keep you posted on how our partnership evolves. We started with the recovery playbook. We're seeing the world through your eyes, my eyes, and let's see what comes. What's the next stop? Please, a warm hand for Sharon and for Ernest.